Welcome everybody to 2026. I could have either Gretchen or Marcia lead us in the pledge.
All right, folks, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you guys, and I did leave a little extra time this morning / afternoon because I know it's been a few weeks since most of us have seen each other. But welcome to 2026. And I want to see if we have any guests or visiting Rotarians at this table. I got Amy's table.
My leads.
Oh, my leads.
From Lincoln City Rotary, right? Yeah.
Okay.
And hate to put you on the spot, Noel, but you got Ty and
Yeah.
oh, he's from Toronto. Well, guys. And Diane.
I have Iris, I hope I say her last name right, Izzy.
Good to see you.
Yeah. She is a new realtor friend of mine. She is a new realtor friend of mine. She lives in Lincoln City, but I hope she'll join our Rotary Club. She has one of our homes listed at Shoreline Ridge.
Welcome. So I just want to say good afternoon to our members, guests, and visiting Rotarian. It's a pleasure to welcome you all to our first lunchtime meeting of 2026 on this Thursday, January 8th. I hope you all had a great holiday season and just want to welcome you in 2026. I know it might not have been the greatest news lately for people, but it's going to be a better year and we're going to do our part to make it a better year. January is Rotary International's Vocational Service Month. I want to do a special thank you to our greeters, Gretchen and Marcia. On the tables, you'll see a greeter duty roster that I promised to get out well in advance of this month and get complications and other time commitments, but so it's on there. If you're not on there and you want to be on there at a specific time, just tell one of the people that are already on there. I didn't put everybody on there. I left some people off, one by accident. Sorry, Lynn. But and the other people that I left off, there were reasons for it. There's other considerations, other duties, health concerns, things like that. So, but if you want to be on there, just let me know. If you can't be on there, I'm asking you, also on the back, there's single sheet ones and then there's 2 sheet ones. Because I messed up and made some 2 sheet ones. But I'm asking you to find your own replacement first, if you can, or switch with somebody. But if you can't, let me know. As long as you let me know in advance, I can get somebody to do it. If, and of course, if there's an emergency, don't worry about it. But if you don't let me know, if you just forget, we did agree at our board meeting to do a $25 fine if you don't show up or get a replacement. So try to do that, but understand that there's emergencies come up, things like that. Just try to let me know as soon as you can. I'll get it taken care of. So that's the exciting thing about the greeters and the duty roster. The main requirement on the duty roster, it's different, is that we want you to be here at 11:30 to help Tanya set up, so that she's not kind of on her own every day, getting everything set up for lunches. And but you don't have to stay for cleanup if you're on that. I understand you got work commitments, and also I'm hoping that half an hour beforehand to get here isn't that big of an issue, but afterwards we've been having enough people stick around. And everyone's always welcome to stick around. Sometimes we get 6 or 7 people to stick around. It takes 5 minutes to clean up, and it's never taken more than 20 minutes with even like 4 people. So you can stick around. It's fun. It's a nice time to visit and feel a little better about your day, providing a service to the club. Other thanks, of course, I want to thank Tanya. She's in a transition phase between lunches, so she brought this all. She set up and has been cutting sandwiches for the last 45 minutes.
She made the desserts.
And made the desserts. So thank you. We're back to, we have, who's doing next week? We have
Shelley.
the chalet is doing next week, so that'll be different, a different menu and also. But I have heard good things about their catering. So I'm excited for that. And we'll be getting into another routine, but we also might be, we talked at our board meeting about trying out maybe once a month or so. Seeing if people want to do a potluck, things like that.
Similar to this.
Yeah, similar to this type of situation, but people bringing things in crock pots, stuff like that too. So I already told you January is Rotary International Vocational Service Month. It's again, great to see everyone after the break and, we're excited for today to have our own Ty Hillebrand. He's going to be doing an update on the PUD building. And, oh, sorry. Yeah, I want to do this. Yeah, I want to start getting this.
Okay.
Thanks, Amy. Sorry.
Because I want to pass this around because I know you're all so excited to sign up for the seafood and wine green team. So what that entails is Rotary as a club organizes the green team, which takes care of all the trash and cleanup throughout the festival. We source compost, beverage containers, and we last year, oh, sorry. Green team signed up, so last. Yeah, okay.
Last year, we had the highest conversion rate that we've ever had. I don't have all the numbers right off the top of my head, but, and we sent 22 bottle drop bags, of containers. So it's really, it actually is fun. If you like recycling, it's a great, it's a great effort and it's an education tool. So when you sign up for a shift, and I will assume you're from Rotary from here, but I will also be sending this online because it's on Sign Up Genius, and it will ask anybody who they want their money to go to. So I also send this out to, Habitat for Humanity, Surfrider, because we have some perennial volunteers and their shift money. So we get a big group, or we get a check from Seafood and Wine. I'm confirming what that amount is, but last year was like 4,500, and then we split those up between all these shifts. So if Rotary has, half of the shifts, then we get half of the money. If other organizations, then we send them a check for how many shifts people signed up for. So last year I did some shifts for Friday, or whatever. So anyway, I'm just sending this around. If you have another group that you're signing up for, please note it in the margin, but I will be sending this online, and please forward it to anyone you think would be interested. They don't just have to be Rotarians. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Yeah, and it is a lot of fun if you haven't done it before. If you want to be told thank you a couple hundred times in a few hours, the people are really appreciative. And the ones that aren't, you can be appreciative of yourself because it is amazing how much gets diverted.
And
And
people
that-
like to talk about crochet if you sit there and crochet.
But you get at least you used to, I guess I won't promise this, but you used to get a pass as well.
Yes, sorry, yeah, you get a free 3-day pass.
So if you want to see, attend the event and do other things. I don't know if they're having the musical guests. And so it's fun. So even while you're working, you get to appreciate the musical guests. And it's a great way again to try to minimize our environmental impact for having a bunch of guests to the coast. So yeah, thank you. Please sign up for that. I know that was a little disjointed. Sorry, Ty. But if everyone could please join me in welcoming Ty Hillebrand for his presentation on the CLPUD field.
Wonderful. All right.
Yeah, you got it.
Michael.
I actually, I would prefer to hold it if I could. I move around a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, slides are up. Thank you so much for having me out here today. I try to stay in the.
I was gonna say I'm a lot short.
I'm very honored to be out here today to speak with you all and talk about Central Lincoln. And I'm going to talk about so much more than just our headquarters project today. I do want to say thank you to Noel and Eric for coming out here. At the end of the presentation, between the three of us, hopefully we'll be able to answer any questions you all have for us on other topics that I don't get to. Before getting into my slides, I do want to say A little bit about myself. I actually am local to the coastal community. I'm very honored today. Actually, my very first basketball coach when I played for Toledo Junior League actually came out here today, Doug Hunt. Coached me for a couple of years in basketball and got me started on that. But yeah, I grew up.
You were a star then and you're a star now.
Oh, thank you, Doug. That does mean a lot. Grew up in Toledo, lived in Reedsport a little bit for a couple of years. Graduated from Toledo High School in 1999. Left for school, got a civil engineering degree at Oregon Tech, and then left the state for a little bit. I worked in Washington for the Washington State Department of Transportation for a little over 10 years doing design, construction oversight, project management, and then had an opportunity to come back here to the coast, which I really wasn't sure was ever going to happen. But in 2015, an engineering position came open here at Central Lincoln. And my wife and I decided to take that leap and come back here, and it's been great. Reconnecting with old faces like Doug and others around the community, and actually serving the community, which helped shape who I am and has meant so much to me and my family. So it really has been an honor to come back here and join the Central Lincoln team. And that engineering position turned into a few other responsibilities, and ultimately our board asked me to take the general manager spot about 4 years ago. And again, this has been a great leadership role to interact with our community members and to continue to lead Central Lincoln and help make the decisions that we know have a big impact on our local customers here in our communities. So go ahead and go to the next slide. Perfect. I'm going to start with a little bit of history first, and I'm going to move fast through this. A little bit of glare coming off the screen. So we were formed by a vote of the people in 1940 and started serving, we started operating and supplying power in 1943. At that time, we were getting power from 2 mills, one in Toledo and one in Coos Bay. And when they had extra power, we could sell it. And when they didn't, people didn't have lights. And that really is what spurred, at that time, working with the Bonneville Power Administration to get their transmission lines out here to the coast. And those arrived in 1946. And that's really the first time that we had reliable power out here at the coast. And it was regularly delivered 24/7 and available to the customers out here in our coastal communities. We started with about 5,000 customers back then. Today we serve over 41,000. And as a kind of a note that I'll touch on rates again later, but our rates were 3 cents a kilowatt hour back when we started operation, and today they're 8.66. So after 83 years of operation, that's how far we've taken those rates, which our folks take a lot of pride in, keeping those rates as affordable as we can and meeting the needs of our customers. Go to the next. So today, we cover 700 square miles. We start at the north end up around Glen Eden Beach, and we go all the way down to North Bend. It's a little over 110 miles of coastline, parts of 4 counties, 14 cities. It's 2,000 miles of line that we maintain, 27 substations. We do all of that with 135 employees out of 4 offices. We have our headquarters here in Newport, operations center just north of town, up at 73rd Street. And then we have customer service and operations in both Florence and Reedsport down on the southern end of our service territory. So Central Lincoln's we refer to ourselves as public power, and really what this simply means is that your electric utility is community owned, it's not for profit, and it's run for the benefit of the people that it serves. So with that, what you get is local control. We have 5 board members, and those board members are elected by you all. They're on the ballot. They serve 4-year terms. We'll actually have a couple of seats, I think, that are open for voting, including the Newport seat next year in 2026. Those 5 board members, they're my bosses. I report to all 5 of them. We meet monthly with them at public meetings. They're also your representative, that if we're not meeting your needs or you're unhappy with the direction that Central Lincoln is heading, they're the ones that help shape that direction and make those policy decisions. And so they're the ones that you can reach out to and have your voices heard. Nonprofit operation, what this means for us is that we don't have shareholders, we don't issue dividend checks. We're cost-based, and every cent that we charge in rates goes back into our system. It goes back into strategic investments or keeping the lights on and paying for the power that we serve the communities with. It really is one of the big keys for us to keeping our rates low and affordable for our customers. Reliability, I won't spend too much time on this, but it goes back to the local control. We get to make the decisions that are right for our customers, that are strategic decisions to make sure that that money that we're spending is going towards providing that reliable, resilient service that you all as community members rely on. And then the last piece is customer service. We're not worried about somebody else back east, shareholders. We're worried about providing the public service that public power is all about. Our employees, most of them are our own customers. They see you all at the ball games. They see you all in the grocery store. They're there answering the phone and making sure that if you have questions, you're getting the answers and then helping you get the solutions to the things that you need to ultimately keep us from not having a lot of contact to those board members that I mentioned earlier, and keeping us heading in the right direction. So, go ahead and next slide. I want to touch on our power mix a little bit. I mentioned the Bonneville Power Administration, and for us, they're a really important partner. They're probably our most important partner. We source all of our power from the Bonneville Power Administration. We actually just recently signed another long-term power contract with them that's going to serve us through the year 2044, and we're pretty excited to have that contract in place with them. Their power is very affordable, and it's mostly or nearly carbon-free. On the affordability standpoint, if I had to go purchase power in the market today, it would be about 2 to 3 times the cost of what our rates are to Bonneville. When you look at the carbon attributes and the costs, there really is no other deal out there like what we have available to us through the Bonneville Power Administration. When I say nearly carbon-free, the only reason it's not is because there's times out there where their dams and the power that they market may not be able to provide. Maybe there's a heat event or a cold event, and so the system peaks. And so they themselves then have to go out on the market and make some market purchases. And sometimes that's coming from natural gas or other generation types. And so you end up with this little gray piece here, this 3.8% that is unspecified resource that makes it to where we can't say like we're totally carbon free. There is some variables there on that front. So go ahead and go to the next slide. Rates. I hate talking about rates, but it's important to talk about them. This graph, we're this little gray piece right here. So we're on the right end of the graph. Nobody likes paying their power bill. But when it comes to affordability, we do take a lot of pride in making the right strategic decisions of where our investments are going, and with a focus on affordability and keeping our rates low. This graph shows several other Oregon utilities throughout the state. Again, like I said, we take a lot of pride in being in that lower third of rates throughout the state. Now, that being said, the last 5 years, many of you are in business for yourselves. The last 5 years has presented a lot of challenges. We put this graphic together to illustrate a few of the cost pressures that we've been seeing throughout the last 5 years. With the move towards electrification and EVs on the market, the demand for metals, things like copper, has just gone crazy. Transformers that 5 years ago cost us $2,000 or close to 15,000 each for some of the pad mounts that, you know, when we're undergrounding new neighborhoods and whatnot. Line trucks that 4 years ago would have cost us $250,000 are now over $500,000. They take us 4 years to get. Labor's gone up, and then even though it's worth noting that they're still the best deal in town. Last year we saw 9.8% increase in our power rates from Bonneville, and along with that a 20% rate increase in their transmission fees. So lots of pressures on that our team is continuing to constantly look at, figure out our budget, work with our board, and make the decisions that are right for our utility and for our customers. So I'm going to move into this next slide, and I'll preface this one by saying that I recognize that this is a controversial topic or maybe a controversial topic to folks in the room. I'm not gonna say that at Central Lincoln, we don't recognize that there's been impacts as a result of having those dams on the Columbia and Snake River. There has been an impact to those river ecosystems. I also want to say that at Central Lincoln, we're very strong advocates for working towards healthy and increasing the salmon populations on those rivers. I think what's important to know is that every dollar that we pay in Bonneville rates, or that you pay as customers to us, for every dollar that we pay to Bonneville, a quarter of that is going towards fish and wildlife programs. A quarter of that is going towards fish and wildlife programs. So that's things like fish passage, that's things like habitat restoration, that's things like hatcheries to work towards that. Collectively, with all of our public power partners in the Pacific Northwest, it's over $750 million annually that is paid out of Bonneville rates that go towards fish and wildlife programs on the Columbia and Snake River. So we are big advocates, and we are paying towards a lot of the work that needs to be done and continue to mitigate for those hydro facilities. Now, the reason I'm here and going to talk about the Snake River dams, the lower four, for a second today, is that these are important to us and they're important to our customers. These 4 dams have been in the news with some topics about potentially removing them. And what those dams represent to us is about 10% of the power that we receive from Bonneville. So if those dams go away, we no longer have that power available from Bonneville for them to sell to us, which means that we've got to go out on the market and find another option to replace that. Human nature is to not necessarily reduce the amount of power that people consume. So it wouldn't be fair to say that, hey, we've got 10% less power from Bonneville, I need you to use 10% less power. It's just not going to happen. But from here, it kind of turns into a math problem. I've got 10% less power from Bonneville. The market is at 2 to 3 times the cost of what we're paying to Bonneville. There's a lot of volatility in the power markets that end up resulting in a potential rate increase for some of our customers that could be anywhere from, on the low end, a 20% rate increase to, on the high end, over 60, depending again on that market volatility that's out there. In November, right? Was it November we sent out the emails?
Yeah.
Okay. In November, knowing that this was an important topic to us, we did push an email to all of our customers with some information about this. and some instructions on how your voices could be heard on this, regardless of what side of this topic you may fall on. Because we felt it was important to put this out there, make our customers aware of this potential rate impact and have people speak their minds. That's out there. If you didn't see it, and you want it, after listening to this presentation today, I'd be happy to leave my card and resend that email back out to anybody that would like that. You could also go, I guess, dig through your email and try to find it from November, but it is out there. Go to the next slide. I'm gonna move away and kind of end on storms, and I promise I will get to headquarters. Here we'll wrap up with that. Storms, we live on the coast. They happen every year. We had a pretty big one just a couple years ago with the ice storm. We had customers that were out of power for 7 days during that ice storm. This latest couple rounds of windstorms that hit us right before Christmas, we had customers out of power for as long as 4 days. I bring this up because it's important to have a plan. We want people to be ready. Our crews work hard, but I think of them as superheroes, but there's just so many hours of the day when we've got broken poles, when we've got something that we can only clear so many trees. They live for that, being out in the wind and picking the pieces back up when it's all on the ground. But it takes time. And so we've worked with the county on some messaging about being 2 weeks ready and having a plan and knowing what's going to happen and being prepared for those power outages, because it's just one of the things that comes along with living out here on the beautiful Oregon coast. Go ahead and go to the next one. I'm not gonna spend time going through our process here today on how we restore power. We've got a great 5-minute video on our website. Go there, check it out, and you'll be an expert on it. What I will say today is that we do have a method to the madness, and we basically work from biggest to smallest. And so if you find yourself on day 2 or day 3, and it's just you and your neighbor that's out of power, it's most likely because you've got a transformer replacement or a broken pole or something that's going to take one of our crews half a day to replace. And we still have 500 customers on another feeder outage that is just down the road a little ways. I promise you they will be back. They always come back. We've got great technology and we can see that you're out of power. It's just, we're trying to get the most amount of customers back on for the amount of time and effort that the crews have to put in when they're restoring those outages. So just be patient with us, and hopefully you don't find yourself as one of those unlucky customers that's the last ones to come on. Next slide. All right. The topic that you actually brought me to speak about, right? If you've been up to our headquarters building up by Safeway, you've probably seen some changes taking place up there. We did break ground on a new headquarters facility in September. And if you went up there today, you would see actually our line crews are out installing the temp power for the contractor, but they're going to be working on other utilities. They're going to be starting foundations here in the coming weeks, and we expect to be moving to a new facility sometime in early 2027. Now, I want to go through a little bit of the history on like what drove us to getting to this place, and why did our board make the decision to move forward with this project. Well, ultimately, about 10 years ago, our headquarters that looks beautiful from the outside, our facilities team has done an amazing job with upkeep of that building. We started to have some settlement issues. We started to break some windows. We started to have some walls bulge, and it started to show us some signs that there was some things wrong. Now, if you've ever pretty substantial things wrong. If you've ever been in our building, when you walk in, you'll notice it's a very open space. It was designed as what they tell me is this open passive solar design that never really worked. It's got a big glass opening that was supposed to heat these liquid filled columns. And I'll rephrase that, it never worked for us. But with the open atrium, what we have is a big lack of reinforcing and like beams and X braces and whatnot that connects the structure together. We've seen some significant settlement. In recent years, where there's been more of a focus on earthquake preparedness and readiness, we did some structural evaluations of what it would take to retrofit that building to bring it up to any sort of seismic standard, and the cost estimates were close to 75% of what building a new facility would look like. One structural evaluation actually helped us change some of the guidance for our staff. It was like, normally if there's an earthquake, you get under the table. The advice that was given to me when I started there 10 years ago was, if there's an earthquake, you get out of the building because it's coming down. And that was for a moderate sized event. As we started planning for potential Cascadia and hardening like our infrastructure, our substations, our transmission structures, to make sure that we're ready to work through and come back after an event like that, it's not going to be very good if all of our important servers and a lot of the other functions that we house in that facility are pancaked in a building that's on the ground. So ultimately, after looking at a lot of options, different sites, including up at our headquarters, or not our headquarters, but our operations center north of town and a few other locations, the board made the decision to make the investment and build back on the site in the back corner, because we own all of that property back to Eden View at the current site. Like I said, we expect it is a Cat 4, I think, seismically rated facility that they've designed. And really a sound investment for us to be ready to stand back up when our customers need us the most. So yeah, that's happy to answer any questions on the headquarters itself when we get there. I have one last slide to close out on here, and it just has our vision and mission statement. And I will say that you know, we really do take the public power model to heart. We are here to serve, and at Central Lincoln, we're going to keep working hard to keep that trust that we've gained over our last 83 years of serving our local communities. So thank you again for having me out here today. It truly is a pleasure to come out and share this information with you all. And thanks, Doug, again for coming out today. That was really awesome.
You, Dan. I want to let you know that I love your employees. Stacy Bridgman is a friend of mine, Noelle, of course. Mandy, I don't remember her last name, and Courtney Little, they're amazing. Okay, having said that, are you a Rotarian? And Sean, what? Oh.
Welcome to politics.
Yeah, I know. So you heard me earlier say we cover 4 counties, 14 cities, and there's one of me. And so my travel schedule, if you saw it, you're, I don't want to say you're lucky to have me out here today, but
it's a good thing. We are very lucky to have you out here today, but Deborah Smith was a Rotarian. So we want to-
Right, yeah, loves that place.
Okay.
Also very happy to have Noel.
I have a couple of questions.
sure.
First one is, well, with regards to cost savings, I mean, it's amazing that the way the rates, I'll say, have not gone up, to track anything. It seems like they're only 3 times what they were 2 years ago. It's not a rate of return I would want. But with the technology, with use of like drones, things like that, is that part of why the rates have, you've been able to keep the rates low? Or, I don't quite understand how it could have not risen more.
So honestly, a lot of it comes back again to our partnership with the Bonneville Power Administration. If I were to break down our expenses, you would see that about 60% of it is our purchased power. And that is just, I mean, that's the biggest chunk. And so, yeah, it's not good when line trucks go up in costs, but if we see increases in our power costs, it goes up substantially faster than if we see power like increases in transformers or other components, just because it's a smaller piece of the pie. So that's why, again, for me, topics like the Lower Snake River dams are so impactful on those rates, is because power is by far our biggest expense.
Another question, when you talked about, living in a dynamic environment like we do, and power outages, and we all are aware of power going out when it's stormy. With the recent landslides, I've become Public Works Department, the county, I'm more aware of trying to anticipate the added rainfall, the added weight in the ground, and where they logged, like maybe even like in the last 10 years, 5 to 10 years ago, where these potential slides are going to be. We have our engineer doing that. Are you guys doing any kind of evaluations for worry spots based on the added torrential rainfall? As I know it's less probably rainfall overall, but it seems to be more all at once.
Yeah, so that's interesting, because actually 10 years ago when I started at Central Lincoln, that was one of the things I personally worked on in our transmission group, is taking some of the landslide susceptibility maps, the other hazard maps that we had, and overlaying that against a lot of our lines. And so for years, actually, we've been using that as a planning tool. And those maps do change. We get updates from Degami, we get updates from others that are out there. But yeah, we are, when I say things like we're making strategic decisions on where to like underground a new line or to replace a new line, like we are very much looking at those hazard maps and helping us cite where those facilities go, so we can avoid those. Sometimes we can't. And we gotta understand that and make those decisions, but where we can and where we can work around them, we are moving those.
And one other quick suggestion. Because when you mentioned it, made me think, you mentioned the price of hot materials, metals now, things like that, your costs that we're out here. Just a suggestion, consider a scrap metal penny drive now that the pennies are out. I get that there hasn't been a lot of copper and pennies for the last 30 or so years. But it might be something people might want to get away for their penny collections. But it could be a way of getting a lot of raw material or costs for that.
Yeah, I will just respond to that by saying, like, we actually are moving away from using copper as much as we can, because it catches the eye of thieves. And so if we've got copper on our poles or copper in the air, it generally the metal thieves have a way of finding that very quickly.
Just real quick, yeah. So my brother graduated from Oregon State in electrical engineering in '82 and had worked for EPA for Bonneville Power until he retired a couple of years ago. But in February, there was substantial cuts to BPA. And I'm just wondering if you've seen any effects from that. I know how he feels about it, but
Yeah.
I'm just curious if you guys have seen anything.
Well, so I mentioned my busy travel schedule a few minutes ago. That's actually one of the things that I've been doing over the last year is I've been working with our trade organizations and working with Bonneville to advocate on their behalf, because we have seen those impacts. And we need them to be healthy for us to be healthy. And We did have some storms last year where like Bonneville lost their transmission and they didn't have the line crews to respond. And that was scary. We were actually, I think, were you sitting at headquarters with me in the dark, both of you? While we were waiting on Bonneville to restore power and our whole entire northern system from Casita Lighthouse up to Glendiga Beach was out. And it was this helpless feeling of like, I mean, I was calling Bonneville offering our crews assistance, but you know, we're not set up to work on their heavy transmission lines. There's only so much we can do on that front. So yes, it was a big win for us recently to get Bonneville's hiring authority back. They just got that last month to hire back all of those positions. But I'll tell you, there's not a lot of people in our industry right now that have the technical expertise that are really excited about signing back up to go to work for that federal agency at the moment. It's really hard when you go through that kind of cuts to entice people to like, hey, come back here. This is a good place to work. And it's a great place to work.
Yeah.
But they've got some challenges in front of them.
I have a question about one of your specifications, and I'm sure it's there for a good reason, that I've never ran into it from the other utility. So I've put in a lot of conduits, a lot of poles over the years. You guys space your conduits off your pool instead of directly on. You don't come up right at your pool. You come away from it on strut, and you come through a junction box. And I've never seen that in any other jurisdiction.
So the riser poles that you're talking about, our interpretation of that specification requirement is that we have to maintain a safe climbing space for our linemen. And so you will see some variance amongst utilities on how they interpret what that means, but every one of our poles, regardless of whether we can take a line truck up to it and put somebody in the bucket, it still has to be safe to climb in case there's not a truck available for them. So our engineers and our team have said, like, they've got the belt, the safety belt, and their spurs that they're going to climb that with. Having that spaced out and is safer than having that belt go over the top of the conduits that are right up snug against the pole. And so I can't speak to what other utilities are doing, but that's where that comes from for our utility.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes.
I got it.
Oh, sorry, go.
I just want to give you a compliment. We lived in Paradise for about a decade. And Paradise, our electric rate was 43 cents kilowatt hour for what, 8.5?
Yeah.
And about 4 to 6 hours a week, you would generally go without power just because they couldn't even deliver that expensive power they had. So this is absolutely remarkable getting to live here. And the work you guys do is just really, really, really great. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm just curious, what, and you may not know on that, what percentage of your budget is like tree trim and storm that?
So I do know the tree trimming. So we're spending our annual operating budget's about $100 million, including everything we do. Annually, we're spending about $8 million in tree trimming right now. For us, it is a huge piece of our work. So it's gotten up there. You mentioned Paradise. I cringe when I hear what happened to that community and the fires down in California. That is something right now that for us, it took a back seat for many years. We're reestablishing a lot of our right of ways. We've been working on this for close to 6 years. We've been making a lot of headway, but it does come at a substantial cost. The storm prep is a little bit more fuzzy. We stock a lot of materials. We try to keep about a year's worth of like regular materials in our warehouses. And that doubles as like for projects, like if you call us and say, I need a new service for my home, on top of responding to storms. Because we are kind of out here at the end of the road, we can't rely on a warehouse in the valley to get us poles in the middle of a storm. So I don't know like a cost of what that would be to have that kind of warehousing space, but
Is tree trimming all in-house, or do you have a few contracts so that?
It's a bit of both. We've got 4 of our own crews, from north to south. And then we have, like, right now, I think we have another 8 contract crews that are working with our crews as well. Yeah.
I am. Is that working?
It's working.
I have a comment and then I have a question. First of all, I live on Olalla Road and yeah, we're kind of at the end of that short spur. But once we realized that, then we did some things internally in our own, disaster preparedness planning in the house. And we now, do things differently as far as where some of the food is, how frequently we open the refrigerator. We're on a well, so we have water stockpiled because with no power, you have no water. And, it's worked out well and the communication from your people has been very effective to help us have an understanding of how long we're actually going to be without power. After that first time where we went for about 10 days without power, then we started to learn anyhow. So keep up the good work there. The question I have really goes back to the slide that you had on the Snake River dams. And you talked about the relative cheaper power that you get through the BPA, which is, as I understand it, attributed to hydropower. But could you talk about a comparison of the rates in the Pacific Northwest to maybe the Northeast? Because that's a big factor when you start talking about solar power, wave power, alternate sources of power. When you talk about the cost to do a project back east, you got a higher standard of costs established versus a lower standard here in the Northwest. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, we enjoy in the Pacific Northwest one of the lowest carbon footprints for electricity generation in the entire United States. It is much lower here in the Pacific Northwest where we have that Bonneville resource than anywhere else in the US. They mentioned Paradise, California. You go down to California, electric rates 40, 50 cents a kilowatt hour. You get there really, really quick. They're very high. Hit New York, the eastern seaboard, they're not quite that high, but they're close. You're in the mid 30s. Is the last update that I remember seeing 36, 37 cents a kilowatt hour on that front. There is no other resource, like there's other federal dams, the Tennessee Valley Authority, they have several dams on that river system. They're still nowhere even close to what, Bonneville charges us out here. I can't quote you what their rates are. But we enjoy public power in the Pacific Northwest enjoys the lowest cost, lowest carbon footprint power in the United States, hands down. There's no other way to put it. Okay. Thank you.
And Ty, one of the goals of Rotary International and our club in particular as well is to do our part to eradicate polio. And so on that, in appreciation of you presenting today, we're going to vaccinate 50 kids in your honor against polio.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
How that goes. Okay, so quick announcements. I know Amy had to leave, but one of the announcements was, please, if you haven't signed up on the sheet, I understand. Maybe you need to check your calendar, things like that, but please do sign up for the seafood and wine. After she inputs this, she'll be sending it out online, and you'll be able to sign up online at your leisure. And you can sign up more than once, and try to sign up with a friend. Like I said, it's a lot of fun. Another thing I wanted to mention, Amy would have mentioned it, I think, if she got to stick around, is we have our exchange student weekend coming up March 13th through 15th. So we don't necessarily run that. That's run by our district, but it's basically all the exchange students from our district area. They come out here to Newport and we host. They do most everything. They have activities, go to dinner, all that stuff. But we do need host families. Basically your requirements for that is that, usually a small number of the students who are coming will stay at your place. And you provide breakfast for them to start their day. And then they're coming picked up and they go do their activities.
I think you have to drive them.
Okay.
Someone comes to pick them up.
Okay. But that's coming up at March 13th, 14th and 15th. So if you're available to do that, I'm sure Amy will be looking for help with that as well really soon. Keith and Diana have a vocational lunch on the third Tuesday. I think it's still a place and presentation to be determined.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, the person that we were going to have, can't do it, so he's still working on it.
Okay, great, but it's still gonna be that third Tuesday unless you hear differently. I'll get a newsletter out and I'll also send the duty roster out via DACDB very quickly. So if you have any changes or anything that you need or need to swap or anything like that, let me know too. If you're on vacation, anything like that, just let me know and I'll get it fixed and updated so that John has the right stuff. Any other announcements? We have so I will open it up to any happy bucks or somebody's got to be happy about the game tomorrow, right, Freddie?
Well, yeah, I hope I'm happy about it. How about $20? Sure. We can get started.
Any other happy bucks?
Yeah, I would like to donate $50 in honor of Ty Hillebrand, because not only is he doing all this great work, but he's also a Newport High Aspire mentor to my daughter, and he's doing an excellent job. She is listening to him much more than her parents. Thank you, Ty.
Guy? Oh.
We got our fast done. Spoiler alert.
Not sure how happy I am, but I had a birthday a couple days ago. I can't believe I'm 78 years old. Oh,
They're waiting.
How happy are you?
$78, but I tell you what, when I was the age of you people there, I thought 70 was old. But anyway,
You got another decade before you can become president.
that's my happiness.
I'm going to be $25 happy to the Lincoln County Foundation. I have lots to be thankful for. Tax season is starting. I have wonderful help for tax season. And my class went without a hitch last semester. I'm really excited for this semester. And I'm just grateful for all of you here. And Ty, I hope you take what I said with the goodwill that it was meant to do.
Totally good.
Matt, were you gonna say something?
No.
I'm $25 happy to see Doug Hunt. At time it's being there that it takes to get him here, you gotta start coming.
That's the enrollment ticket, 25 too.
And I told Doug I'd make this part of the announcement is please don't ask him to run for commissioner.
I know you do.
You're at least happy you're retired, right?
Yes, I'm happily retired and I intend to stay that way. I will contribute $100 to the Lincoln County Foundation in the name of Claire Hall.
Yes.
Thank you, Doug.
Yes, there's a scholarship fund being set up at the foundation in Claire's name.
And I'll match that, Mark.
You know what, I'll match it too.
Thank you, Marcia.
Yes.
Okay, with that, I'll close the happy bucks unless anybody speaks up. I don't know if we're gonna do no secretary report today. Unless you want to do a membership incentive.
Mark Miranda.
Mark Miranda,
Hey.
it's a membership. That's John, if we have social media and 50/50.
Yeah, we'll do it quickly here. There you go. All right, this week, the winner will receive $78.50. Anybody but Doug Hunt.
I'm not in the pool.
Oh, good.
Well, that works out then. Yeah.
Or Kimberly.
Take her off.
Yeah.
Let's spin it again.
We'll spin it again.
We're spinning it
Yeah, we
again.
can need to take her out. Look over the curve. All right. Okay, so our next regular lunch meeting is next week, January 15th, and our presenter will be the Newport City Manager, Nina Vetter, and she'll be giving an update on the city of Newport. So with that, I will ask Gretchen to take us out with the 5-way test.
The 5-way test of the things we think, say, or do. First.
Is it
the truth? Second.
The merits of all concerned.
Third.
Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
Fourth.
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Fifth.
Is it? Thank you, guys, and I will see you next week.